In this episode, we are going to speak with Ali Essig, who has a really interesting story about how a mistake in a video made her YouTube channel blow up and go viral and made her nutrition coaching business take off overnight. So stay tuned.
If you want to build a legitimate, profitable online business without shiny objects, without the hypey gimmicks, and without the stress and overwhelm, if you want to make more money without having to be present online all day, every day, pumping out content that nobody sees and hustling DMs to generate leads and sales, then this is the place for you. Welcome to the Digital Trailblazer podcast, your online business university, where you'll learn how ordinary people start from ground zero with no influence, no email list or audience to sell to, and no business or marketing experience, and go from working 9-to-5 jobs to building successful 6- and 7-figure online businesses and all the steps in between. Learn the strategies that worked and what didn't. Learn the mistakes that they made and how to avoid them, and then learn their plans for scaling their businesses and taking things to the next level. All so that you can build your business faster and easier and make more money without sacrificing the things that are important to you in your life. I'm your host, Leah Ray Getz, and with me is my husband, Todd. Now let's get to it with today's guest.
Ali, welcome to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. We are so happy to have you here. You've got a really interesting story that we really, I think, are going to get a lot of value out of. Why don't you just introduce yourself to our audience and let them know what you're all about?
My name is Ali Essig. I live in the Washington, D.C. area. I moved out here to work on Capitol Hill, and my husband's an attorney, and I thought the political life would be my life. But fast forward years later, my husband ended up having a stroke, and it affected his vision. And so during that time, we really dove deep to find out, what is it that we can do through nutrition to help him heal, to help his vision come back. He was only 37 years old. We'd had 6 kids at the time. I'm trying to manage a lot of things at that point, but we came to understand and realize that eating more plants is really good for your brain. As many, antioxidants you can get in and in their whole plant food form. And so I ended up switching to more of a plant-based diet, and my husband immediately lost weight. His cholesterol went down, his blood pressure went down, triglycerides, all of the things. We saw the huge benefit. But the biggest thing was that his vision came back. And when you're sick, when you're not okay, and when you can't work and when you can't drive, the only thing you care about is healing and getting better. And so after his stroke, that's what we dedicated to. And I'm grateful that we were able to get him in a good place where even now to this day, you'd have no idea that he had a stroke. But other people saw what we had done and they said, hey, I actually need help too. And I went through this health event, or I have type 2 diabetes, or I would even just like to lose weight. And so I thought, okay, if I'm going to help other people, I need to be certified. I need to become a nutritionist. I became really passionate about the power of plants and why we should be eating more plants and why most of us are not getting enough fiber. Everyone talks about protein all the time, but 95% of Americans are not eating enough fiber. And so we just need to talk about it more, and it can benefit us more than I think we give it credit for.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. And I think a lot of people are kind of waking up to that now about how much nutrition really affects your overall health. I know that for me, I'm in my mid-40s now, and I used to do judo, jiu-jitsu. I did a lot of martial arts, and I picked it up again in my later 30s, earlier 40s. And suddenly when I picked it up again, I had all these aches and pains that just weren't going away in my knees and my ankles and everything else like that. And so I went to a doctor to try to figure out, okay, what is this? Can I fix it? Do I need surgery or whatever? And finds out that I've got arthritis starting. And so I actually had a surgery scheduled to try to fix some of this so that I could get back into judo and keep playing. But then my wife was like, well, before you do all that, you eat a lot of junk food. Why don't you just try cleaning up your diet a little bit and see if that helps? And I swear it was 3 weeks, just 3 weeks on a clean diet, and suddenly no more aches and pains. And I canceled the surgery, didn't have to do that anymore. And several years later, I'm still going. And it's just amazing what a good diet can do for you.
Mm-hmm. And I wish doctors would prescribe that, honestly, more often. Like, hey, remember how we should eat 5 fruits and vegetables a day? Maybe let's actually do that. Maybe let's cut out the processed foods. Let's focus on the whole plant foods. Let's focus on, foods that will heal. Yeah. So that's amazing. That's an amazing story. I love that.
And so as a part of your journey, starting this nutrition coaching business, you kind of did like everybody else did. I'm sure you got started in a lot of different strategies, learned the webinars and lead generation, all that stuff. But one of the things you did, which Leah and I were actually part of as well, was a coaching program by a guy named Daryl Eves, who teaches people how to create and build successful YouTube channels. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that experience and how that helped you?
Well, I think everyone right now can go and buy online the book, The YouTube Formula by Daryl Eves. All of the information that is really in there that gives you the direction and support to help you. I knew that I wanted to start a YouTube channel, and I went to a conference where I saw him speak, and he just really spoke to me in the sense of like, okay, I really do need to do this. And I had a friend that had gone through the program as well, and she was teaching me, okay, you just need to do research. I think before you start, I love teaching plants. My company is named PlantWhys. And so I was wanting to start a YouTube channel where I go online and I just teach the why behind eating more plants, how different plants can help you, like blueberries with memory, or whole grain, eating more whole grains can reduce your risk of heart disease by 30%. You know, all the things that I love to teach about on podcasts or on my Instagram page. But when I did the research, the recon and research, you start a brand new email account and you open it up. And because it doesn't have any of the past searches, you can just I put in plant-based nutrition at the very top of the YouTube channel with this brand new email account. And what popped up was what, I enjoyed watching some TED Talks and some other information. But what was fascinating, which is what Daryl Eves teaches, is you only look on what the YouTube algorithm is pushing forward. What is on the right-hand side of the YouTube channels, that is trying to get you to watch next. And so while I was clicking on all of these different TED Talks and this different information, these videos that are kind of like what I wanted to make, I saw on the side that it was vegan recipes. Vegan recipes. This vegan recipe, that vegan recipe. I'm not vegan. Like, I think that's important to know. I am plant-based. I'm not perfect. I'm afraid to even take on that title because sometimes if I'm at my mom's house and she feeds me my favorite meal that I grew up on, I'm going to eat it, or sometimes I'll have Greek yogurt. I was slightly afraid to go that route. But I knew that if I wanted to succeed on YouTube, that I had to do it based off of the YouTube algorithm and the YouTube formula instead of just what I wanted to post. And I think it's different too when you have a business. When you already have a business and you're using YouTube to support your business, it's also a different way. Like, you're not just posting just to post. Like, there's a formula for trying to decide, how you're doing it. And I realized, like, okay, I'm going to start a vegan cooking channel. I'm going to do it. And I love in the book, The YouTube Formula, he talks about how Mr. Beast even gave the foreword for it. And he said, just post. No one is watching. So just start posting things. And you're terrible. You're going to be terrible. And it's true. My editor was a friend of mine. And so we worked together. He has become incredible over now that we've done it for almost 2 years. But, I wasn't great. I didn't know that I needed to look like on my phone where the actual lenses. I was looking at myself, all of the mistakes I make. But when you have other people where you can get feedback and they can show you, like, actually, you're not looking at the lens, or maybe you should say this, it really does help you grow so much faster. So you know where you can improve. And so I, just kind of kept posting for a year. I was committed. And that's the other thing, that when you start this, it's kind of like a TV show. Like Friends was always on Thursdays at 7 p.m. So you always have to post at the same time every week. So for me, that's Saturdays at 8 a.m. I did my video. I've been consistent. And for a year, I had 2,000 subscribers. That was it. But it was helpful. And thankfully, at the time, I had been doing more high ticket offers, and I was really wanting to grow more of a low ticket membership. But I knew that when it comes to a membership, you really need more leads. The more leads you can have, the more in order for that business to thrive. And so at the time, I was starting that, trying to grow that, but my business was thriving mostly on the higher ticket, one-on-one coaching. And I knew that that wasn't scalable to where I wanted to go. And my membership was my long-term goal. And my YouTube channel was my way of getting there. And so I just started posting. And then because when you're posting vegan recipes, if it's not vegan, everyone's going to let you know. And, if your title says vegan, it better be vegan. And sometimes those of us who aren't perfect make mistakes. And one recipe, I used a ranch dressing packet that just happened to have milk powder, and I didn't notice it. And so I know. And I put it in the recipe. It was around Christmas time, and I'll never forget, I just did the recipe as follows. And then all of a sudden it was the day after Christmas, and my editor's like, holy cow, your channel is blowing up. I'm like, what? And he was like, we just got 6,000 subscribers, like, in one night at the time. It'd taken us a year to get 2,000. And so I was like, what happened? And then I open it and I see the comments. It's like, that's not vegan. But along with all of that's not vegan, I can't believe it, blah, 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 were all these other people. It's like, oh my gosh, I love your channel. Oh my gosh, I've never, like, this is like the best channel I didn't even know existed. Well, because I had a year's worth of content, then they're able to go back and see what it was that I had to offer. And all of my previous videos were able to pop up. And luckily I was already monetized at that time. So it just was the perfect time to be able to grow.
Yeah, that is such an interesting story. I love that. People just got angry in the comments, but that fueled the algorithm because people are commenting on it. And that's one of the things that YouTube looks at, and other social media channels too, like Facebook looks at this, is that they're trying to gauge people's interest based on how they engage with your content. And so if people are commenting, obviously they're engaging in a way that's more than just a like or more than just a view or something like that. It's one of the most valuable engagements you can get on a video is a comment. And then a share or something like that is also very powerful. But having that blow up like that because you did something wrong and people just got angry and then it exposed that to more and more people, that is so cool. It almost makes me think that you could almost intentionally do that. Just
well, I will say I still have not done it on purpose. I always make mistakes. It's funny though how one video, I think that one video on top of the mistakes, it was a really good video. And so when it went off, like I'd made that similar mistake in another recent video and it didn't go viral like that first one. I think some magic to it. Like it does have to be a good video, an interesting topic. It was, 10 vegan hacks, right? So it was a really good hacks are interesting. Everyone wants to know more about that.
Hack number 6, eat some red meat and just
like, oh, I hate you. Yeah, no, it's funny. In fact, I know even this Christmas, there's something about this is another thing. I don't know what it is. It's about Christmas time. Everyone's at home, they're watching videos, but my video from this Christmas also did really well. And I also was getting more mean comments. And that's when I know I'm like, oh, yay, that's exciting. Like that means it went like beyond my typical audience. It's grown, it's doing well. Sometimes it still gets to you though. I'm not going to lie. When they call me a bad mom because I'm using, GMO food or whatever it is, I'm like, seriously, go give your mom a hug for me. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like people on the internet are very opinionated, but if you meet them in real life, suddenly they're not so much. That's just the nature of people, I think. That strategy, now that you mention the angry comments, it makes me think back to when Leah and I were running an ad targeted to network marketers to show them how to generate leads online. I mean, it was a good ad, good copy. It was performing well, but the thing that really made it take off was all the comments that we were getting. And just like you, it wasn't necessarily people saying, oh my goodness, this is so great or whatever. It was people saying, I hate MLM. MLM is a scam, blah, 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 blah. It was all that stuff. And then people arguing about that. It's like, no, if you find the right company and you just let it go. You just let it go because it's engagement. And because of that, with our Facebook ads, one of the things that Facebook looks at to determine what your ad cost is going to be is relevancy and are people engaging with it? Is it adding to the experience? Well, all those comments just boosted the relevancy score in Facebook, which meant that we were getting leads for $2, $3, $4 each for a webinar. And the webinar was producing about 5 to 6 times return on ad spend for us because of that, because it was all the comments were just going crazy. So this thing about getting the angry comments, yeah, it can hurt the ego a little bit, right? It can offend you, but then it helps you as well. But I think that's a trade-off. And the thing is, like, there's always trolls. Like, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, I think you need to learn how to have some tough skin and deal with that.
Right. And I think the cost of inaction is so much worse than the cost of acting comments. Like it's the cost of not doing anything at all. I mean, I don't even know where my business would be if I didn't even try YouTube. Like it has really a game changer. It has been a huge needle mover in everything, because of course, as you know, you always have a lead magnet and you always share it in the middle of the video all the time. It's like, okay. And this is another thing too, for anyone starting a YouTube channel that I learned and I think everyone should know, is that you have to start your video, like the first 30 seconds are so important. In short form, it's like the first 3 seconds, and long form, it's the first 30 seconds. You have to get their attention. There's no, hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Like, no one does that anymore. Cut that out. But straight in, what are they going to get out of this and why should they keep watching? And then in the middle, once you kind of proven to them like, hey, my content's pretty worthwhile, right? So in the middle, that's when you promote your lead magnet, right in the middle, right when you're about show something else, you're like, okay, so if you want to learn more, for me, it's a free meal guide. Like if you like these recipes, I know you'll absolutely love my free meal guide. It includes a shopping list. Make sure to click on the link below, grab it, right? And then at the end, it's really important that you keep them watching, because in order to promote your channel, you want them to not just watch that video, but to watch another video. So you say, hey, you don't take the time. You want your exit to be just as fast as your intro, almost even cut it off a little bit. Like when you want to go longer, make it shorter, right? And then you say, oh, real quick though, if you liked this video, I know you actually really will love my past video where I taught this. You know, that will keep them watching and keep them going. Like there really is a formula. You know, there is a formula.
And when you do that correctly, like you said, it's the videos on the right-hand side. The, what do they call it? It's suggested videos? Is that what that one is? When somebody's watching your video and they see a bunch of your other videos in the suggested videos section, that's when you know that you're doing things right and people are clicking on more of your videos.
Right. And you can go to your analytics and see where are most people coming from. And if they're coming from search, you know, that's a little different. Like they're searching for a specific, like I have a friend who did a video on like how to fix a certain type of watch. And so every year around Christmas, that video does really well because someone just got it for Christmas and they're searching, you know, whatever it is or how to do something with a watch. But in general, you want it not to be search. You don't want people just searching for that. You want YouTube to be pushing it. So suggested. You want suggested to be the highest, like that's where people are coming from, is YouTube is suggesting your video. That means that you've hit the nail on the head. You know your niche, you know what people want. Like people don't want to hear about the whys of plant-based nutrition. I mean, some people do and it's helpful, but that's not going to go viral compared to vegan recipes. People, and even I look for vegan recipes. Like I'm not completely vegan, but I will always like vegan lasagna, vegan this. My daughter can't have dairy. I'm not going to even look at a recipe that might have dairy in it because it's worthless. So, yeah.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that people don't realize is that YouTube isn't just one algorithm. Like, yeah, it's the second largest search engine in the world, but YouTube is composed of multiple algorithms, like 5, 6. There's multiple in there for each different placement. So there's a search is one algorithm, then there's the home page, then there's the suggested, then there's browse features, and then I think there's one or two others. But so it's got all these other algorithms. And if I remember right, and you can correct me, but if I remember right, that search function only accounts for a small fraction of the total traffic and total views on YouTube.
Yeah. So it's if videos because you think people are searching for this, while yes, it's great, it's a search engine and that can help you, it's the smaller, you know, you really need to be making videos for YouTube to suggest you, for YouTube to, okay, this is what's actually trending. So one of the biggest things too is to find outliers. And so in order to understand what is trending, when you're looking at content, again, the research is so important. Like I wish everyone just, before you do anything, research what's going on. And even just like topics. So you want to have different buckets of topics, right? So maybe one of my buckets right now is like cheap and easy, you know, quick 5-15-minute videos. I had a bucket for hacks, right? And I was able to find those buckets by doing research and seeing what other channels, vegan or not, what other recipe channels, which type of their videos are getting more views than subscribers. If that video got more views than the amount of subscribers they have, then that's an outlier. That clearly, for whatever reason, it was an outlier for them. It was trending. And so there's something that I can copy, right? Success leaves clues. So let's see if I can copy that same, not the same exact video, but maybe like the hacks. Let me do 10 vegan hacks, or let me do 15-minute vegan meals. And it can be as simple as like, everyone needs to know, like the phrase everyone needs to know could be trending topic. And so really, really paying attention to the titles, the hooks, you know, what is it that is working for them, especially in those outlier videos, the ones that are doing even better. And there's an actual tool for this now in AI, thanks to AI. I'm not even I should be, because I talk about it all the time, but I'm not. It's Spotter AI is really helpful, that you can put in a title in there in Spotter, and then it will show you all the outliers for those particular topics.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a new one that I hadn't heard of yet. That's I'll have to check that out. That whole thing that you mentioned about the research, like you said, it's so important. And I think a lot of people don't realize the things you need to be looking for in there. But one of the things you mentioned, if I remember right, you have to do it like on a private browser, or you need to clear the cookies and history from your current browser. open up a new account or with a new email address and then use that to start doing your research. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason you want to do that is because if you just log into YouTube with your existing account, with the existing cookies on your browser and everything, YouTube is basing what it shows you based off of your view history and everything else. So it's kind of biased.
Exactly. Which is why you want to start a brand new email account. And what's fascinating, I went to Vid Summit this last fall, and even like the best of the best, right? The best YouTube creators, they're doing this. And what's even more fascinating is they go into their analytics so much that they'll notice, like, so they have their different buckets, those topics that I talked about. And then they even go in to see if it's the same audience. If the same people are watching the hacks video as the people that are watching the everyone needs to know video, then you're good, then you're fine. But if you notice that different people, like maybe some people just want to know the quick and easy, and the cheap, and other people just want to know vegan desserts. Like maybe they're just a dessert people. And that's when you should consider starting a new YouTube channel. That's why the YouTube creators that are killing it, they have multiple channels because they've noticed, oh, that's a different audience. That means I can capitalize on a different audience. And so they separate it out and they go in on just the one audience if they have a different audience they're doing. And that's why sometimes if you start a podcast and you put it on your YouTube channel, it can kill your YouTube channel. You have to start a podcast YouTube channel. Like you can't just have everything in one. Like Instagram is great. Like you can have your stories, whatever you post in your stories doesn't matter. You could be a different person on stories versus what you're, posting in your feed. But on YouTube, like you are one type of person and that is it. And you stick to it, for your one audience. So if I ever started a podcast, I would have to open a completely different YouTube channel and then do it from there. Or if I wanted to start something else, it would have to be completely separate. I have to keep my channel, my audience pure.
I really hate that you said that because that's what we did. Our YouTube channel, because we went through Daryl's program years ago. And I think when we started, we had like single digit thousands of subscribers. And after a year in this program, we'd gotten up to 20 some thousand subscribers. And it was going well, but for us, it just, the time and effort involved in doing that just wasn't worth it when we could do much better with just paid ads. So we kind of fell out of it. But by the end of that, we were getting thousands and thousands of views on every video. And some of our best videos were getting hundreds of thousands of views. And then after coming back to our channel and starting to post our podcast episodes to it, the initial ones did okay, hundreds of views. And then it just steadily declined from there. Just like you said, the reason why you don't want to do that. And now I think, whenever we upload our podcast to our YouTube channel, if we get somewhere between 50 and 100 views, that's kind of normal. So yeah, it's like, maybe we should, I'll have to consider that, starting that new channel now. The other thing you mentioned was content buckets. And this was another concept that we learned from Daryl and like you mentioned, all the other big YouTubers are doing this. Can you explain for our audience what content buckets are and why they're important?
Okay, so the concept of content pillars, I think, is pretty familiar with people, that people are aware of always having specific pillars that you kind of cycle through. And when it comes to buckets, you're looking for those outliers. Like, okay, what's a good content pillar that I can have? And you follow these, you need to follow them for at least 3 months. So you have an idea on especially at the beginning, because you're not getting a lot of views anyway, so you might as well. But you follow these 4 different topics, within you'll cycle through. So like on the first week, you'll do one content pillar, the second week, another, third, fourth, right? And then you do that for 3 months. Then you evaluate, okay, which buckets are working, which buckets don't work. And then you replace. So you do your research, you see what's another outlier video that I can kind of move off of, what buckets are they using, and then you replace the one bucket that didn't do so well. Or maybe like for me, my hacks videos did incredibly well, but there's only so many hacks that you teach about. Like I can't keep teaching about hacks for like a year. It lasted maybe 6 months and it did great, but then I had to drop it and choose a different bucket because I just couldn't make another hack video like that I could use. And so you do that and kind of cycle through. And after you've had a lot of content, you can even use a bucket where it's a compilation video. So maybe 1 week out of the you're doing 25 of the best lentil recipes for me. It's like 10 of the best black bean recipes. It's a compilation video. So I'm using a compilation of my past videos, combining it, and maybe adding 1 or 2 recipes to it. And that's going to be my bucket. But again, I always do that because I notice what are the other creators doing? What is working for them? And I model it. And so whenever I choose a new bucket or a new content type of pillar, I'm giving it a good enough time. Like if it failed like twice in a row, I won't necessarily wait for that 3rd month. I'll drop it and be like, okay, I won't make one of those again. But if it's doing pretty well, I'll keep it going, and you just kind of cycle through. So it's like I'll have these buckets and I'll drop one, I'll pick up another bucket, keep going, drop one, pick up another one. It's just a really great way to organize it, because otherwise you're like, I don't know, what should I post? What works? It's just a really good way of doing research and applying it.
Yeah, and I think what you mentioned about going to the people who are really doing well on YouTube and kind of seeing what they're doing for content buckets, because you'll be able to see that. Because isn't you typically make a playlist out of that? Like a playlist is a bucket, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So because I know a lot of ones that I'll see is like the reacts videos, right? Like lawyer reacts to court scene in Ghostbusters, or fighter pilot reacts to Top Gun 2 or something. The reacts video is one, and then the other one that I see a lot in my own feed is Captain America versus Hulk is not even close. Thor versus Iron Man isn't even close. That phrase isn't even close. And then the other one is closer than you think. So it could be Doctor Doom versus whoever, right? Is closer than you think. And so that's another one. But yeah, those themes like that, when you create a bunch of videos on that, can do really well as far as content buckets. And just seeing what other people are doing in your niche to create those content buckets, I think is a great tip. Now, one of the other things that I think is really important to talk about is how the actual algorithm works and how YouTube decides what content is performing well and what isn't. Because I think a lot of people will just think about search relevance. If I have the right keywords in there and I stuff the keywords and people are clicking on those videos when they search for this keyword. But it's actually a lot more than that, right?
Watch time is number 1. It's even turning almost number 1 on, I would say, Instagram too, is watch time. Like they really care about how long are you watching the video? When are you popping off? When are you obviously going back to rewatch something? So you want to keep them on. and how do that is you don't want the dead space. You really have to cut out. And my editor just got better over time, because we kind of noticed that. The beginning, my videos were like, I'm spending tons of time, but you have to be like recipe. I move my camera every 3 seconds, like every 3 seconds, showing something different. I can't just be like boring, not moving for 3 seconds. And that's where I see creators, maybe they have given up over time because they didn't learn that concept. Because if people get bored, they click away. So you've got to keep. And another thing that I think is fascinating, I couldn't really apply this for my channel because it's just recipes. When you're teaching information, sometimes it's just recipes. But how other people keep people watching is a simple formula. It's like the hero's journey, right? We learned the story of the hero's journey, and you can see this in YouTube. You start with the end in mind. So you know that at the very beginning, they're like, okay, this person wants to, let's say, run a marathon. And so at the end, they're going to run the marathon. But this is the storyline, and it always goes like this. And you'll notice it in every YouTube video. They start going, and if they were to just run the marathon, that'd be a really boring story. But what makes it interesting and keeps people watching is that they start going, but this happens, so they do this. But then this happened, so they this. It's the but so. And you can have as many but so's as you want. Like it's and even for me, even with recipes, if I even spill on accident, that actually like gets people to like me more, like to see the mistakes, to see not perfect. They actually have this more affinity to me. They like, or if I'm like, oh, I don't know if this recipe is going to work out, you've got to keep them watching. You have to keep them entertained. Even if it is education, it's just me showing you a recipe. Lots of people, shockingly, my audience is like 50, 60, 70-year-old women, and they watch recipe videos before they go to sleep at night. Like it's just, it's what calms them down.
Yeah. Well, and now that you mentioned that watch time being the number one factor, what you said about the beginning of the video, you don't want to do big long intro. You don't want to have like a 30-second or a 1 minute like logo sting or pre-recorded introduction, because people skip it anyways, or they drop off the video. at the end of the video, you don't want to spend a minute wrapping it up, right? It's just like cut it off. And that, because YouTube looks at all that. When you look at your retention graphs, if at the very beginning of the video, you have this big drop and then people are kind of slowly dropping off after that. And then at the very end, like 2 minutes before the video ends, people drop off again. YouTube doesn't like that. So that's why you got to make that beginning really short and then the end real short too, is because you don't want those big drops at those points.
Because they want you to keep watching until you get the suggested next video. If they drop off because you're spending way too much time being like, well, I hope you had a great day and this was so great and this was so fun, okay, bye, like, and stuff like, and click, it's almost cut off so short that you're like, don't even feel like you got closure. That's way better, because then they want to watch another one.
Yeah, open loop.
Exactly. Oh, the open loop, exactly.
The other thing was that we learned about was the click-through rate, right? The thumbnails and the click-through rate, because that's really important too.
Oh my gosh. It's the most important thing. Like, honestly, it is the most important, because if they aren't attracted to your thumbnail, they're not even going to click on it in the first place. Doesn't matter how good the video is. If your thumbnail sucks, like, I'm sorry, they're not going to click on it. And what's interesting too is they need to see the whites of your eyes. Sometimes you're too far back when you're, if I'm like really far back pointing to something versus up close, having a surprise, like, I don't know, like, what's going to happen? And even if you can in a picture format, like, point in an arrow so that they want to see, like, oh, what's going on there? I want to click on that. Or how does that work? You're telling a mini story in your thumbnail. And sometimes, like, for me, honestly, the thumbnails can be as simple as just beautiful recipes, like just a recipe sell itself. It's like, I want to make that, that looks delicious. But for others, you really need to get creative in your thumbnail to even like a before and after. Like, I can show how to make tofu taste good, like before, after, looks like a chicken nugget. Like that type of thing. You have to spend time researching, seeing, again, the outliers in other people's videos. What did their thumbnail look like? How can you up after that? I mean, there's like a Mr. Beast face that like everyone notices, oh, he changed his thumbnail face, so now instead of, like whatever it is. And so, yeah, these little tiny tweaks matter, the colors, everything. And honestly, that's where Spotter AI is helpful too, because they will kind of draw up a bunch of different thumbnails ideas for you. The AI tool will be like, okay, here's some thumbnail ideas off of this title. And it will like give you a ton of you download a picture of yourself and then it will kind of like draw it. So sometimes there's so many tools out there with AI. It can be a lot easier than you think.
Yeah, wow, that's so interesting. That thumbnail is so important because it's a thing that grabs our attention. If we were to compare this with Facebook ads, when people create their image for the ads, their instinct is to put a bunch of information on there and a bunch of words. And it's like, no. The only job of that image is to get people to stop their scroll and click to read the ad. That's it. It doesn't really matter what's on there. In fact, there was many years ago, one of the top marketers in the niche had created an ad. It was just a purple cow in a field. And he was trying to make a point. He was like, you're going to click on this ad because it has a purple cow in a field and you're curious about it. But really, this is what's happening is blah, 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 right? The ad has nothing to do with this. And it was a good ad campaign. But that's the thing, is that I think a lot of people, and us, like if you look at our thumbnails on our YouTube channel, we've got words all over it and everything. But because we're doing things wrong, I know it. But just the way we do it. But if you look at the thumbnails of the videos that are being suggested on the homepage and everywhere else, they don't have a bunch of words, and most of them, they have no words. They're just a picture.
Yeah. And for me, I always have vegan in there because I want someone who vegan recipe to not look at something and be like, oh, that looks good, but I want them to know, no, this is vegan. So yes, even though it looks like meat, it's actually tofu or it's actually soy chunks or whatever it is, so for me, having words are helpful. And sometimes it can clarify certain things where your title may be, a different type of hook. So they're two different hooks, right? You have the picture and then you have the hook in the actual title. And how can you support that hook? How can you maybe sometimes even repeat it? Like my dump and go recipes, sometimes it's the same title, like dump and go crock pot, and then it's like 3 crockpot recipes that will save you time on busy days, something like that.
Yeah. I think the thing with YouTube is that there's so much to it, and it can get so complicated. I know that with our channel, we'll get a lot of people that are emailing us about, hey, your YouTube channel is amazing. I'm a big fan, but you're not getting as many views as you should because your YouTube SEO is not correct. I can help you with your YouTube SEO and blah, 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 blah. And it's like we get, solicitations like that on a daily basis, like multiple. And it's like, okay, I know that SEO is not the problem. The problem is our thumbnail. The problem is our watch time. Those are the two big things. And like I said, if you can find someone that does good thumbnails that are getting clicks, in my opinion, that's probably the most important use of your marketing funds is to invest in someone like that.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Helping with a thumbnail. But also keeping in mind the thing about podcasts right now, and what I've seen kind of the trend is there's no regular podcast that's killing it. The type of podcasts on YouTube channels that are doing really well are like you're in person, you're in studio, they're going, they're in the first 30 seconds, it's like a commercial. Those bigger podcasts are the ones that like really put so much production into it. It's like a TV, it's not like this is so great, but over Zoom, it's people would much rather listen to this. This is, and sometimes they'll listen to it on YouTube, but they're not watching this because of the production value, because it looks so good. You're entertained. You want to keep your focus on it. They have to really like the topic. Again, this is where the research is so important. Before you YouTube channel, it's like, okay, which podcast YouTube channels are doing well, and why are they doing well, and how can I model that? Is that even doable to model? Is there one podcast YouTube channel that just has like a Zoom or a StreamYard that's killing it? I don't know. I don't know. You'd have to do the research to see. And maybe they are killing it. And maybe it really is just the thumbnails. Maybe it really is just the titles. But you have to take all of those things into account. Is it just the thumbnails? Is it just the titles? Or is it the content itself? If I would have started a channel about how and why to eat plant-based, and just like a tutorial, this is how you eat plant-based, and these things that I teach in my program. If I were to make a YouTube channel basically that had the videos that I have in my program where I help people lose weight, it would not do as well. It's just crazy. It would not do as well because that's just not what the YouTube formula is pushing at.
Yeah. Well, and another thing that you mentioned that was really important was that, and I'm going to paraphrase here, but people aren't necessarily on YouTube to consume information. They're on YouTube to be entertained.
Mm-hmm. And recipes are entertaining. Like that's it. Sometimes people will search for things to learn. So there is a place for that. Like people do want to learn, but the YouTube channels that grow really fast, that get up to 1 million subscribers, they're not there to just be like, let me educate you. They're there to entertain you. And like I said, women are entertained by watching my kids be silly as we're eating the food or I'm making something, and just being like, they're learning in a way that's also entertaining though. So it's fun. I mean, look at how many TV shows there have been on cooking channels. Like it's clearly a form of entertainment because so many cooking channels have been on TV for generations. So it works. And so keeping that in mind, yes. And there are also like talking head TV shows that do really well. But why do they do well? And how do you model it? And how do you keep people engaged and entertained like these other shows do?
Right. Because that watch time is important.
Exactly. Going back to it. Exactly.
Well, Ali, this has been just an amazing conversation. I mean, YouTube is one of those things that, Lee and I we love the subject. It's not necessarily something that we do in our own business, but we love talking about it. And I know that we've just kind of hit the tip of the iceberg and people probably want to know more. If people want to know more about you and connect with you and see more about what you do, where can they go?
Well, clearly my YouTube channel is a perfect place just to even be able to see what it is that I'm talking about, to be able to apply it and see, especially in your own business. So my YouTube channel is PlantWhys, PlantWhys. I like to teach the why behind eating more plants, even though it's a vegan YouTube channel. As you already talked about. But so definitely go there. Also, I'm on Instagram, same thing, and then my website. And as I try and get my leads from my YouTube channel, what I actually do is help people transition to eating more plants so that they can stay on track, so that they can lose weight, so they can feel better, have more energy, improve their gut health, and really just be able to feel good. Whether it's because they also went through a traumatic health event like our family did, or it's because they've been dealing with chronic illness for years and years and want to be able to do something within their their own power. Like you said, with your arthritis, it's like you have more power than you think. And the problem is some people can do it on their own, like you guys were able to do. Other people, they start and they quit, and they start and they quit. And that's when you just need more help and support. And as a mom, I know that I'm always willing to help and support my kids. It's like, oh, you want to learn soccer? Let me sign you up for a soccer team and a basketball team and gymnastics and all these things. I'm willing to invest in them. And I think as moms, we don't invest in ourselves. We don't think of, well, maybe I actually need help. Like my kid needs help to be a better soccer player. Maybe I actually need help to be a little healthier, to get recipe ideas, to know, what thoughts and limiting beliefs are keeping me stuck on my weight loss journey, to get that support. And so that's what we do inside our membership. We have a book club, we have cooking classes, we have life coaching, because if you're not eating the diet that you want to eat, it's not because of the food. It's because of all of the mental chatter that's going on in your head. And we really try to attack that. And we try to do it based off of healthy habits and behaviors, not quick fixes and gimmicks. If you are on the weight loss drugs, that's great, but let's also support you with these healthy habits and behaviors. If you are using supplements to help you, that's great, but let's actually help you to change your behavior. So when you stop using the supplements, when you stop doing those drugs, that you actually are able to keep the weight off. You're able to live a healthy life. You're able to reduce your risk of Alzheimer's disease, of stroke, of diabetes, of heart disease, because you're feeding yourself plants, foods. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be vegan. I'm not, but you do need to prioritize eating more plants, whole grains, nuts, seeds, legumes. And that's what we do. We help you do it in a way that's fun, enjoyable, even if you have husbands that are anti, even if all these other people in your family don't want to do it. And so if that's something that interests you, anyone in your audience, I would love to offer a free 30-day trial to our membership and try it out. See what it's like to have that type of support and help.
Yes, absolutely. And we will have the links for all of that stuff in the show notes here. And I definitely encourage you to check that out. I know that for both me and Leah, like our health is one of those things that keeps our business going. When we don't feel good, we don't perform well, our days are shorter and we're less productive. And fixing our diet was one of the big things that helped us be more productive and grow bigger and faster in our business. So I absolutely encourage you to check that out. Ali, thank you so much for being with us today. We really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, it was good to be here. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. For show notes and information about today's guest, head to digitaltrailblazer.com. Now, if you love this episode, if you got some value, make sure you leave us a review and subscribe. And be sure to share this episode with anyone you know who could use help to build their business. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.